us fight for a new world.
We don't sleep to dream, we sleep to build stamina, energy to do our thing, get your camera on. This show is about to begin, so sit down and buckle it in, let's go!
Come on, everybody, let's go.
What's up, man? How you doing today,
Whoa.
man?
Pop culture unleashed on a Saturday. Who
Yeah,
thinks this?
bringing it hot on the weekend. My name is Brian, and that is Shane, my wonderful brother, and we are Pop Culture Unleashed. Thank you for being here on a Saturday. My birthday was a couple days ago, but we decided to celebrate today when we could talk about Joe Rogan and Donald Trump and a bunch of other political stuff. Like I said on the Salty Nerd Show, it's time to get canceled.
Is that what you said? Listen, we're beyond cancellation at this point. Anybody who's afraid of being canceled, it's too late.
It's too late.
If you want, you can die quietly in the darkness. We would rather die screaming in the light. So here we go.
Yeah, I like that, dude. I like that. We would rather die screaming in the light.
That's right.
We did get a super chat at the top of the show from Christy's Corner for $10. Thank you, Christy. She says, happy birthday, Brian. Thank you so much for that. And we got a lot to talk about today. We are talking about, of course, the Joe Rogan, Donald Trump interview. We got clips. We're going to go through it. We're going to watch the clips. We're going to respond to them. We're going to react to them. There's also some interesting little tidbits I think that Trump left out. I don't know if he's allowed to talk too much about aliens and JFK. And I think he skirted that subject.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. Well, because there are things that are still secret that he has to abide by. So even if he was able to tell what happened with JFK, if he knows, he can't. And that's why he said he'll release it when he gets in, but we'll see.
Imagine that. Imagine he's like, yeah, so what's up with these aliens? He goes, yeah, they've been, they've had their hand in our government for a very long time. I'm fighting against the reptilians. The lizard people are here.
It would have been funny if he was like, well, they are running against me.
That would have been great.
Oh my God, it's V.
All right, listen, if you want to become a member, hit that join button below. We are 100% funded by you. Our videos make no money on ad revenue. And the only money we get on this channel is from members like you that support us, super chat and all that stuff. And we really appreciate it. So if you want to become a member, please do so. After the public show, the public side of this stream, we will be doing a member stream where we get a little more loose, take our pants off, get weird. And
Oh, and also, if you're
time.
here, please give us a like right now. And also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. It helps, really.
Yeah, we lost 37 subscribers last week. So
all right.
Hey, if you're not subscribed, hit the button, man. Get in there.
We're trending down.
We're trending down somehow. Yeah. I blame politics, but you know what?
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Can't win them all, right?
Rather die in the sunlight, right, bud?
That's right, man.
Okay, well, we got a members chat from You're on Fault. He said, "Member when I became a member."
I remember.
I remember.
You're on.
I remember. I will not put my pants back on, sir. I will not. All right, let's talk about it. Let's just jump right into this thing. You got a chance to watch the interview, right?
Yes, like as soon as it dropped, I was pretty shocked. So first off, the interview dropped late, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, there it is. And I'm like, what? Why are they doing this? Why do they do this in the morning? Yeah. So apparently, just so everybody knows, the reason why the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview came out so late is because there was a problem with Spotify, and they have a deal with Spotify that they can't release on YouTube before Spotify. So there was some sort of uploading issue with, but they had to wait until it came out on Spotify. Then they released it on YouTube, which is why it didn't come out sooner.
Yeah. Well, we got a chance to digest it because we were going to do a show right after that show. We probably wouldn't have been as properly prepared because it is 3 hours.
Yeah, we would have had to watch the 3. Yeah, it was 3 hours, which was neat to see. So when I saw that it was going to be 3 hours, I said, okay, that means the interview probably went well. Because usually when Rogan has an interview that's just not really working, it's between an hour and 2 hours. Most of his are over 2. But when I saw 3, I was like, okay, they must have had a good time doing it. So that's interesting.
I thought it was funny too, because I follow a couple liberal accounts, and I clipped this 18 hours. It was 18 hours ago. So like 6 hours before the actual stream came out, this guy said something
When I was on,
very interesting. I'll play it for you guys. Play it for you right now.
Oh God.
So this guy said something. Remember, this is 6 hours before. So the same day. It's the same day. This is what David Pakman said, and he is a pretty popular liberal. He has a few million subscribers.
I see him frequently on the on what's his name show,
Piers Morgan a lot.
Piers Morgan, yeah.
He is consistently wrong, and here's a good example.
When I was on the Piers Morgan show a couple of days ago,
sorry,
they brought
I have
on
to pause
this
it real quick because I like how he has to drop that. You know, when I was on the Piers Morgan show,
of course. I mean, listen, Piers Morgan is multiples more popular than he is. Of course he does.
Of course, yeah. All right, this is what he says.
Kid who's a friend of Barron Trump's, I forget his name, and the kid said Trump is out there doing these long form interviews, showing that he can do it, showing that he's got it. He's not cognitively declining. His brain is great. Everything's good. He can do these long form conversations. One of the, and like, for example, the upcoming one on the Joe Rogan program. Now, I went back and I looked at Donald Trump's recent appearance with Lex Fridman. Lex Fridman is known for doing shows that are 3, 4, 5, or even more hours long, endlessly long. I was exhausted after doing a 4-hour episode with Lex Fridman. But for some reason, Trump's episode with Lex Fridman was only, I think, 54 minutes or something like that. So my expectation is that Trump is not doing 2, 3, 4, 5 hours with Joe Rogan. I think it's going to be kept short because we know Trump is exhausted. We know the longer Trump is allowed to speak, especially in these formats where it's relatively extemporaneous and unstructured, the more likely it is he says something absolutely disastrous.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, David Pack. I mean, listen, you know, everybody's got their own little gig they're trying to sell, right? And he's picked a side. And sometimes when you pick a side, you're all in, right? You're trying to find the little things that will give you an advantage, even though they may not make sense. You're grasping for straws. But we should probably give like a little bit of an overview before we get into it, Brian, of the thing. And let me ask you, was there anything? Well, before we get specifically into it, I want to say I've seen pretty much every Donald Trump podcast now, and so very familiar with all of his information. I am an independent. Okay, I've always voted who I thought was going to be the best president. And going into this, I'm independent / a little bit of a
Libertarian,
a little bit.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, he voted for Kanye in 2020.
I did, and I was prepared for the worst. No, I'm just kidding. But I've always been really like, listen, I want common sense. I want people who are going to, I want people who tell the truth. And we'll get back to that in a second. But first, one thing I noticed about Trump in this interview is that despite all the other interviews he's done, he looked, I wouldn't say the word is nervous, but he was reverent he was very careful about not what he said, but about understanding the importance of what he was doing. He seemed to be aware that the podcast he was doing now was going to reach a lot of people he needed to vote for him. Right. And he allowed himself kind of to be cut off. He was, he gave a lot of deference to Joe, which he doesn't typically do in a lot of his interviews.
Yeah,
did you notice that?
Yeah. I think he respected Joe Rogan's position and what he's been able to accomplish. I also think that was the smartest play, because if he's trying to get elected and not just go on the biggest podcast of all time, then he needs to show the independence that he's a reasonable person, right? Some people on the right wing side of it and on our side were like, I wanted them to get more deeper into like the Joe Rogan stuff, aliens and the fake news, but that wouldn't have pushed the needle with independence. And really what he's doing on this podcast is he is trying to get the independent vote. And Joe Rogan represents a lot of the independent vote. So
he does. A lot of people on the margins of society, not really political animals, and you got to think of it like this, like Joe Rogan, he had his own agenda. Like when he was going to sit down with this thing, there's a lot of questions that people want to ask Trump that he doesn't really ever answer very directly. And I think his goal, if you could tell going straight into this, he wanted to know things like, you know, when you first came into office, you know, like picking the people who to help you, you know, do things, like trying to peel back the layers of the onion that is what has occurred with Trump over this time has not been easy to do. And I think he went into it with that. And I think he was able to pull back some things a little bit. And I think overall, what I learned most from this interview, and like I said, like once I realized that Joe Biden was not cognitively available, unable to be president, essentially unable to be president. And then when Kamala Harris was essentially placed into his spot without having some sort of a voting by the people.
She was appointed.
When she was appointed. And then I'm like, okay, so I was already starting to lean back towards Trump. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. And then when she started, I said, well, what's her policies? What's going on? And when she just couldn't put two commonsensical words together and she started copying all of Trump's stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, that was weird, right?
It's the
he was
sign
like,
of a
no
person.
tax on tips. And the next day she's like, my newest policy, no tax on tips. You're like,
right. Well, and that's what happens to somebody who just wants to win. They don't care. They don't have any positions. The big difference between Trump and Harris, and I think Trump, this is very interesting. Like a lot of people don't like Trump. And you want to know why they don't like Trump? Because Trump is just telling you exactly what's on his mind. And sometimes when people tell you the truth, it's not always pretty. What politicians do is they essentially lie to you. They tell you what you think you want to hear while trying to sound genuine. And if you go back decades, like I'm old, okay? I've seen a lot of presidential elections. I've seen a lot of politicians, just like a lot of you have. And the reality is that they're always trying to frame everything they say with keeping in the back of their mind that they need to be elected.
Right.
Trump is the first guy I've ever seen that is just saying what he's thinking, regardless of whether it's going to get him elected or not.
Yeah, and I have a clip on that. So
before we go into, I just want to set this up, and then you can go drive however you want. Okay, I think it's really important that people hear this. Okay, this is the difference. You know, the reason why the people who are voting for Kamala Harris, for the most part, and this is something that nobody's talking about. So I want to share this here. The reason people are voting for Kamala Harris, they are people who someone else takes care of them. Okay, let's be clear. Whether that's children who still live at home with their parents, whether that's actors who get a check every week from shows that they previously did, whether it's retired teachers or retired people, these are the people voting for Kamala Harris because what they don't understand, their money, their care, their subsistence continues to come every week or every month, no matter what.
Yep.
They aren't afraid. They don't want things to change, regardless of how, ignorant or, the person might be. So it's really, really important that people understand this. The reason why those people are voting for her is they don't want change. And if you take a look at what happened 4 years ago when Trump was president, okay, when you take a look at that, he actually, take a look at what he did. He sounded like an idiot a lot when he said things, but look at what he did.
Right.
Look at what he passed. Look at how our country did. Now take a look at the last 4 years and look at all of the wars. Look at how the economy's done. You want 4 more years of that? I just don't know how anybody with any common sense can do anything other than vote for Trump. Anyways, take it away.
No, yeah, I thank you for that. You're 100% correct. And as someone with a lot of Disney shares, I just can't vote for anyone that's not going to increase the stock market to some degree. But on that, I did want to share this. When Joe and Trump were talking about the way he speaks, there's 2 clips in general that I thought were really great. And when Trump talks about the weave and all that. But let's play this first one.
Wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. one of the beautiful things about you is that you free ball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in jail." Like, that's great timing.
Yeah.
But
I think he's right. I think the reason why a lot of people identify with him is because he doesn't speak in political riddles. And a lot of politicians do this. How frustrated are we? If you ever watched a political debate, and I think in my lifetime I've seen probably 25 of them, right? Presidential and senator and primaries and generals. And they get asked a direct question, and they start with like, "Thank you for that question. And before we get there, I really want to talk about," and then they go into a talking point. Mm-hmm. And by the time they finally get done, there's no time to even go back to what that question was. And we're all just sitting here like,
and that was the point.
Why didn't you answer the question? And that was the point. Yeah.
They didn't want to answer the question.
Right. And Trump is so plain spoken. They go, "Hey, how about this?" And he goes, "She's fat." Or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, you heard Joe laughing a bunch of times when he kept calling people stupid and
right.
you know, idiots.
Goes, if Kamala was on her, she'd be on the floor right now, catatonic.
You know, and there's people who don't like to hear that. But the reality is like it is like, okay, if I could have a guy who just wouldn't say those things and was still like had awesome policies and did all the things that Trump is doing and just would kind of shut up, then I would love to have that person. But the problem is that person never gets elected president in the first place.
Right.
He doesn't get elected in 2016 if he's not totally outrageous because he's not a politician.
Right.
That's how it got him there. And it just so happened that this guy, it lined up, this business guy who's kind of a little bit outrageous ends up running, realizes that it's capturing the media and that gets him elected. So why would he stop doing what he's doing? Why would he stop doing it?
Yeah, it's a winning strategy. Why? Of course, when he says things that, even if they're factual, but the way he says them are bombastic, outrageous, salacious, he knows the media cannot ignore it. Like they can't. It's like filet mignon to them. It's like a ribeye steak. They're like, oh my god, he said something about right-wing tiki tortures and how great they are, and they have to just display it. Right. And what happened was the fake media portion of it really became, so when he did coin the phrase fake media. Mm-hmm. Trump, props to him. But when that became a thing, it actually woke a lot of people up. A lot of people just watch the news and be like, why would they not lie to us? Right. Why would they edit things out of context? Why would they say things that are, only half truths in order to drive us very specific narrative or message? Well, and then Trump came along, and it became so prevalent how often they did it and how hard they did it that regular people started to wake up to how insanely bought a lot of the media is. And here's another clip where they highlight this exactly.
Well, before you go into that clip, I just want to say one thing. So before you go into the clip, it's bothered me for years. Mm-hmm. Like, I can go back and I can tell you, when George Bush was talking, when Clinton was talking, when Obama was talking, I can go all the way back. Even when Reagan was talking, sometimes you could tell, that they're just not, they're blowing smoke up my ass. Right. And it was like, God, I know, well, that's what politicians do, and we got to accept it, and blah, 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 blah. But do we have to accept it? And that's what Trump brought out is like, oh my God, somebody can, pull back the curtain and we can actually see what's going on. It takes a ridiculous person perhaps to do that. But even though what he says may be ridiculous, his policies are not. And the decisions he makes are not. They're trying to paint him as this out of control, maniacal, unhinged person. And you can watch this interview and see that he's simply not. He even said, I only have one more election. He knows he's only got a
Right.
4 year, you know,
Right.
so it's very counter to everything being said. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your
No, it's okay. No, that, and we're gonna get to the Kamala Hitler statements too, because that was insane.
Yeah.
But regarding the media, they did speak about the media and how nefariously false they are at how they deal with people that they don't agree with, that are on the other side or whatever. And I thought this was a great comparison because they talked about The View. And they couldn't show the clip about The View, but guess what? We can. So here we go.
Yeah, because we don't give a shit.
Yeah, we don't. Copyright claim. And
It's like Monday, Tuesday.
yeah, that's a Tuesday for us. No big deal. Here we go.
It was the episode of you when you were on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
And you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you. They were all talking about how you might be conservative in your financial positions, but you're very liberal socially. They were talking about you in such a favorable light.
Yeah.
The audience was cheering. And then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Yeah.
But there's probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked, and the way they've done it, so coordinated and systematically. When you see those same people in the past, very favorable to you, like Oprah, when you were on Oprah's show,
Very.
she was encouraging you.
Remember how much they loved Donald Trump before he ran for president. Everyone loved him.
Everybody loved Donald Trump. Like when
Everyone.
he was The Apprentice, everybody loved him. And
He was in rap videos, cameos, McDonald's commercials. Like everyone loved Donald Trump before he was the president.
and he was no different than he was today.
Same dude. Yep.
Same guy.
Let me finish. Let me finish the clip. I had to just break in there.
Last week.
But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
My friend.
My friend, watch this. Just watch this. This is nuts. We're in an alternative universe, okay? Because this is not that long ago.
Go standing O.
Bro, watch this. Just watch how this goes. Watch this. So she's a Republican. That's easy.
Yep.
But everybody else.
Look at Joy.
Hugs.
Can't wait to get a hug in.
Yeah, everyone's hugging. Look at this. Look at this. Kisses,
Barbara.
hugs, kisses to Whoopi. Everybody hugs and kisses. Even Joy Behar hugs
Even
and
Joy
kisses.
Behar hugs and kisses.
See? Now watch this.
So I'm going to take you at your word that you have not decided yet when you're going to run, but you're thinking about it, and you've expressed some of your views, which are controversial and in many ways, but not to her. Well, not to her. Okay, you're a Republican. So,
Not to her.
but let's say that you do decide in the spring, right? And your ideas are.
By the way, this is like an inception of reaction. We're reacting to Joe and his guests reacting to.
Right. I love it.
Resonate so much. On the other hand, we saw Newt Gingrich apologizing for his marriages and divorces. You've had 3 marriages, 2 sort of uncomfortable divorces. Do you think that the...
Not really. They were very comfortable.
Well, we won't review it.
And we're not going to play the whole thing. But,
It shows you, though. It shows you the difference.
yeah, and it was a very, it was not even, it wasn't even just cordial. That's not even the right word. He was charming. They liked him.
Right.
They had a fun time. They did that particular interview that day was longer than they usually do with guests because they liked him. Everyone liked him before he started winning.
Right. And everybody even when he first came out and started saying things that were pretty outrageous, he really wasn't a threat, and all of a sudden when he started winning, that's when things, and all of a sudden, actually, you want to know when it really happened? It's when he called out the media.
Right.
When he started calling out the media and saying fake news.
You are fake news.
And saying, and attacking the media who was attacking him. That's when everything started to change for him.
They're like,
So,
whoa. Politicians are not allowed to attack us. We can attack you. We can lie about you. We can edit you out of context. We can literally call you Hitler, but you are not allowed to ever retaliate, sir.
And I love that Joe Rogan brought this out on his show, because it's not something that people have really discussed on any podcast or any show with him. No one's really showed the way that these two things are kind of counterbalancing each other. And it really does show how things have changed. If you look at the news today, after this interview has occurred, story after story after story highlights the negative things that Trump said. It focuses in on how he's, rambled on and how he called her names, and all of them, all the articles are hit pieces against Trump. And no one really stopped and listened to the whole thing and said, wow, this is a guy who was just being very, very plain with us.
Right. Just plainly spoken. There's one thing I want to get to. The 2020 election, they spoke on this a lot. And I thought it was very interesting, and I have a couple clips for this, how they made a very good point about the mail-in ballots and the no voter ID. I thought it was fascinating how Joe brought up a really good point. He goes, the only reason, give me any other reason why you wouldn't want to require ID.
It's the same thing we've been saying for the whole time. What is it? Right.
They've been saying
it. Right. They've been saying, they started out saying, well, it's racist. Right. To think that anybody can go get an ID.
But that statement is racist.
But after about 6 months of that going around, the Democrats stopped saying that because they realized that wasn't going to work. So now when they're asked about it, everybody deserves a right to vote. There's no answer.
Right.
So let's see the clip.
Okay.
One of the things that was fascinating also was the denial of the election results is a pretty common thing. Hillary Clinton famously denied that and she called you an illegitimate president, and she said that Russia put you in place.
Even though she conceded.
Yes.
She conceded the night of the election because she was beaten.
Yes, and it was a thing that was pretty common for people, especially Democrats, to deny the elections. There's been many of them. The Bush administration, the dangling chads, all that stuff.
Well, look at these guys in Congress. All these sleazebags in Congress that are Democrats, they're still denying 2016. But now they don't so much because, they try and pin it on me. You don't hear them say,
but here's my point.
They denied it right up until the end.
My point is, this idea of election fraud is a forbidden topic, and you get labeled an election denier. It's like being labeled an anti-vaxxer if you question some of the health consequences that people have had from the COVID-19 shots. Oh my God, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you say, and what I say publicly, and I've said this a lot, it's not 0%. So if you ask me what is the amount of election fraud in this country, is it 0%? No one thinks it's 0%. I've never met one person, not a super liberal, progressive, far left person or a right-wing conservative. Not one person thinks it's 0%. They think when you have human beings, and also you have a lot of weirdness that was going on during the 2020 elections, particularly with mail-in ballots.
And you had legislatures that had to approve, and they didn't approve, and they went out and did it anyway. And you had old-fashioned ballot screwing. I mean, you had you have people going up and dropping in phony votes. You had unsigned ballots, et cetera, et cetera.
There's certain people that think that they have, and the rhetoric is also that you're Hitler, and that in order to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this.
I'm going to pause it there.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll go into the other portion of it, but I did want to stop it here because he's right. The voting fraud thing is for some reason a forbidden topic when we know for a fact that it's not a 0% anything.
Well, it's already happening now. So there's already investigations into, people sending in multiple. It's going to happen, but the point is that I don't think they talk about it in that segment, but he does ask Trump to be specific. Like, what evidence do you have? Are we going to do that clip or no? Can we talk about it here?
I have two more clips on that.
Okay. So we'll get into that then. So
I want to stop it there though, because the fact that what he said is he's right. For some reason, it's a forbidden topic.
Well, it's not for some reason. We know what the reason is, because if you shed too much light on it, then you're going to make people think, well, what's the reasonable argument against it? oh, well, people aren't going to have faith in our elections. They're going to think that the elections, don't work. And we don't want people to think that that's the case. So therefore you can't say anything about that. That's the reason why. Now, we still have this thing called free speech, I think, in our country. And when you have incidents that are occurring time and time again, why does Mesa County in Nevada, or was it Arizona, one of those counties, why do they need 14 days to count election votes?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Give me an answer.
Because that makes no sense.
Yeah, if a country like Venezuela can get all their voting done, or in 14 million people in one night, why does a county need 2 weeks?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
So they can wait to see how many votes they need? I mean, that's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like. And the crazy part is they can't give me another answer. They can't give us another answer.
And it's a highly Democrat.
30 years ago, we were able to count, 10 years ago, we were able to count all the ballots in one night.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, after 2020, we need days and then weeks.
Well, and that's the problem with mail-in voting, because with the mail-in voting, they allow people to mail in their vote as long as it arrives by election day, then that's fine. But what they're saying is, well, we need to put them all together, and and it just takes more time. Well, how about this? How about no mail-in voting? How about you have to go down to a poll? How about a day? How about a national holiday, okay, where everybody here in this country gets a day off to go vote? I mean, we have other holidays. We have the President's Day, right? Okay, those guys, we want to honor that, but that was a long time ago. Why not have a day that allows everybody to go to a poll, everybody to vote, and get the rest of the day off?
Election day.
Paid for.
Yeah, election day, national, federal holiday. Why not? And make sure it's on a Monday. You get the whole, and you can have early
weekend.
Hey guys, early voting's fine. We can do early voting still, but the mail-in voting adds a layer of moving parts that is really, really hard to secure.
And it also makes for more fraud, because what happens is when somebody moves and they don't change their voting residence, now somebody else is going to get ballots. Right. Now, guess what you can do? Those people can take your ballots and handwrite them in and mail them in for you. Maybe they're big time Trump supporters or Harris, whatever. They got one side or the other, and they say, we got these extra ballots. Now, yeah, it's illegal, but no one's going to know we did it. So they just fill it out and send it in. Now that person is still going to go vote, right? They still want to vote, and they might go down to their polling place. Now there's confusion. So,
they're not asking for ID at the polling places.
Not in California, right? There's no identification.
So guess what? Now you have a mail-in ballot, and then you're also voting. So you got two votes, which is not allowed. So you have all these little instances of possible fraud. And then what they tell you is, oh no, there's no fraud. You can't say that. You can't say that on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. What are you doing? You can't disparage the election. People will lose faith in us. Maybe there's something to lose faith in then.
Let me tell you the number of people who've already lost faith. Okay. Who've already lost faith. You can say all it is trying to keep power to one side. So anyways.
Okay. Here's a little more of the election speak.
The Russia hoax was a big hoax. It was all a big hoax. So
that's clear. That's one example. But that is a good example.
That's a big example.
So this is what you said when he asked them for a very specific answer. So here's what
this is important.
This is very important, right?
They say it made a 17-point difference. That's a big example, but that's only one. And you could go into the ballots where they wouldn't give you access to the ballots. You could go into the ballot harvesting. You could go into $500 million for the lock boxes.
But just in terms of narrative, so there's two things, right? There's the Russia hoax. There's the collusion with Russia that was never proven, right? That's one.
Well, no, it was proven it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. But they talked about it on
But
television.
it took 2.5 years to prove.
But not only that, but it was a constant narrative on television.
Sure.
So that's a constant narrative that gets into people's minds, especially low information people that just watch the news, that you're in collusion with Russia. So that's one.
Sure.
So that changes the narrative. And then you have the 51 former intelligence agents that work with the original Twitter and get them to remove links. You can't share it on DMs. You cannot share that story. They swept that story because they said it was Russian disinformation, even though they knew it was not.
100%.
So that's...
Stop right there. Even though they knew it was not.
Right.
And the thing is, and I can't say this enough, this all gets cleared up eventually. After the election, after there's no stakes, after Biden is elected, it all gets cleared up. And the people that need to get punished, they lose their job, whatever. But you know what? It's too late. And the fact that they knew at the time what they were doing was immoral, wrong, it was lying, it was election rigging, it was fraud to a degree, and more people didn't suffer for it, and more people, low information voters, don't even know.
And nobody's been punished for it.
And
Brian. No one's been punished for it. So you're right. So what's the problem here? You've got Trump saying that the election was fixed. Okay. Now, what everybody thinks when they think that is that only like the votes, like only the balloting was what's fixed. Now he lost by 20,000 votes or something like that. So, but what he's trying to say is in his mind, when he's saying the election was stolen from him, he's not just talking about votes. He's talking about the Hunter Biden laptop thing.
Right.
You know, they're talking about the China, you know, Russia, tying him to Russia. They're talking about all of the spinning that probably took away a lot of votes that might have gone to him that make him look bad. And that's kind of what he's saying. So yes, there's a problem with ballots. Yes, it took way too long during the election. There were stories of people delivering ballots places and being told to leave the truck and go and leave. Don't stick around, you know? So, I mean, there was a lot of weird stories going on back then. And so, you know, it makes sense that he would be frustrated when 51 Intel people signed off on something they knew was false simply because they didn't want him to be elected. What would happen if the Republicans did that to the Democrats?
Oh my God. It'd be front page news for weeks.
And so what does Trump say? Fairness in elections. And I love to see that if he gets elected, then he will actually try to do something that helps create more fairness in elections as opposed to the system that we have now. I mean, are we going to get to the point where we talk about why people are coming across the border? They talked about that. Is that a clip we have?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's something we're going to talk. There's another reason why voting is the way they are and where they're sending those illegal immigrants to the swing states so that they can win these elections. Listen, what's happening on the other side of the aisle is disgusting.
It's insidious.
For all of you people watching right now that are not from America, and I know we have viewers that are not from the United States, and I thank you for watching us talk about something personal to us, but this is really about you guys too, the rest of the world. When I was going through, I was watching Rogan, I was listening to it and reading all the comments on the YouTube comments. Do you know how many people checking in from Japan, checking in from India, checking in from people all over the world watching that? Because our election is going to have a lot to do with what happens in the world coming up. And having Trump come in, we saw what happened 4 years ago. What happened when Biden came in? We get a Ukraine war. We get problems in Israel. We have North Korea problems. We're having problems around the world because we have weak leadership. Okay. Right. So this is big for all of us. And we appreciate you guys watching with us.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up because that's true. It's important for everyone. What happens here is going to affect the entire world. It's not just our little country, Right. Let's finish this clip, then we'll move on to the next thing.
Story because they said it was Russian disinformation, even though they knew it was not.
100%.
So that's two examples that are real examples. Now, anyone who considers himself a legitimate, objective observer of American politics, if you really want the best person to win, you would want people to not lie. And the only reason why they got away with this lie was because they continually labeled you as this horrible threat to democracy and Hitler. Yeah. They kept saying you're going to be a dictator, ignoring the fact that you weren't a dictator for the 4 years where you were actually the president.
That's an important thing right there. Speaking of, and just to finish up the voter fraud portion of it, there's one more clip, then we'll move on because I did want to talk about the mail-in ballots. Here's a clip where they're talking about the mail-in ballots, and this is really important, you guys. This is an important thing. Mail-in ballots. I know it's important to people that are overseas because they're, in the military, like these kind of things.
I got a story about that.
Yeah.
So before you get into the clip,
go ahead.
So I was stationed in Italy during the 2000 election, Bush Gore, right? I was stationed in Sicily. And guess what? My mail-in ballot went to Florida. And it was the mail-in ballots, 537 votes that got Bush elected, right? That came from military votes. So the mail-in, it can be very important, but it's important that it's vetted and used properly, right? And that only people who truly can't make it to a polling place should be allowed to vote that way.
Right. I know someone said in the chat, COVID. Yeah, COVID is what really sparked the mail-in ballots. I remember when COVID started, we're like, why is this being taken? This is before the election, right?
Yeah.
Why is this being so blown out of proportion? Why is there just this disproportionate response to this? And at the time, I didn't realize that it was a very good way to quickly modify voter laws and make mail-in ballots just a regular for normal citizens.
And that's what Trump just said. That's what he was saying here. They didn't use legislation to do it. Governors just simply said, do it. And they were almost nearly all Democratic governors.
Of course they were.
So, right. And so, of course, they didn't follow the law and they just did what they wanted. So that's what he's talking about and why it can be severely unfair.
And here's more about the mail-in ballots.
Ballots are a bad thing.
That certainly is a problem. Mail-in ballots are a problem.
But every
Another
other country,
problem is
other
voter
countries,
ID.
Yeah, a voter ID. How
Voter
about,
ID is the most bizarre argument that I've never seen anybody articulate in a way that's convincing.
Because
why
they
you
want to
don't
cheat.
need voter. Well, it doesn't make sense any other way. I've tried to straw man it, or I've tried to steel man it rather. I've tried to look at it from a position like, why would you not want people to have ID? And a lot of the ideas are
cheat.
Just ridiculous. You
Gavin
need an
Newsom.
ID to get a driver's license.
Okay, but here's now the next step. Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in the world. And I used to get along, but I don't get along with him because he's just too, it's just a whole con job. But Gavin Newsom, the other day signed a bill that you are not allowed to ask a person, even ask them whether or not they have voter ID.
Now, what could be a charitable reason why anybody
because they
would
want
want
to cheat?
that? But that would be the only thing that makes sense.
But that's taking it to the next level.
Right.
Now,
that and that is the question. I paused it when I was watching it and I was like, I'm trying to think of any other reason.
Of course, yeah, we've been saying the same thing.
And I've racked my brain, and there is no other reason other than it makes it easier to cheat.
Well, you can do a role play right here. Okay, I'm Newsom. Go ahead and ask me why it is.
Hey, Governor Newsom. Newsom. I said,
what did you call me?
Sorry, Governor Newsom. A lot of people are asking about this voter ID thing. Why do you think? Why would we not require voter ID? Is there a reason for this? Perhaps it's a faster experience. Or?
It's a really, really great question. What's his name? Brain. Is that your name? Brain.
That's right, Brain, sir.
Yeah. So really great question. I'll be honest with you. We just need more people to be able to vote. We need to be able to give people the opportunity to vote, and I think it's important that every single American has this opportunity, and this is going to help that.
But sir, what if they're not American?
Well, they are, of course. Of course, Americans are voting. Brain, what are you doing here? Of course, Americans are voting.
And
what
that's
are you saying?
That line. No, it can't. Illegal immigrants wouldn't vote because it's illegal.
Listen.
When
Americans
they said that on CNN, guys, illegal immigrants. They didn't say illegal immigrants. They said non-documented Americans.
Of course,
non-documented Americans wouldn't vote because it's illegal. So what you're saying is illegal immigrants wouldn't vote because it's illegal.
Well, and it's even a longer con game than that, bro. Because when you think about it, all of these illegal immigrants come in, all right? Let's say they don't vote. Let's say they don't vote in this election. Let's say they have kids. Let's say they're so dependent on the government because they're first-generation immigrants.
Yeah, because they're chained to it.
Most first-generation immigrants are chained to poverty.
They're chained to poverty, and they get just enough to live and not enough to thrive, so they can't really get out of the system.
They're going to need the government. This is, 20 million people who came across the border?
That's a lot of people.
Okay, or more?
More than 20 million, yeah.
So in 18 years, when these people can vote, 20 million times whatever, when you're coming from those countries, you're having more kids than usual.
Times 22.
So now you've just added 80 million new voters, let's say, in 2 decades.
Right.
The
And how much
Democrats
did
are playing
Trump
the
lose
long
for in
game,
2020?
man.
How much did he lose to 2020? He didn't lose by a huge margin. I think 20 million voters would have solved that problem.
Even if they're not voting. And listen, let's be real. Most illegal immigrants, they fucking don't want to be around anything legal.
Right. Of course
Like
not.
they're like,
Right.
oh no, bullshit. I'm hiding. I don't want to go back.
Right.
I don't want to go back. So yeah, they're probably not really voting now, but it's the long game.
Right.
The Democrats know it's the long game. And hopefully, well, what if we can get them? And the bill that Harris is constantly complaining about that Trump tried to kill,
Oh,
in
God.
that bill was amnesty for the people who were already here.
Yeah, but Trump
Now,
tried to
what-
kill the
Brian.
border. He's not even in office. And you're
What would
saying he's
amnesty
tried to
do,
killing
Brian?
something.
What would amnesty do, Brian? It would allow them to become citizens,
Right.
so they could vote.
Non-documented citizens become documented citizens.
Or
That's how
become-
it works.
Well, they're not citizens until so they become citizens, and then they can vote.
Right.
So of course, and that bill would have still allowed 2 million people a day to come in, or 200,000 people a day to come in. So it was a bad bill,
And it would have
right?
been given a ton of money to Ukraine. It was less about, it wasn't really a border bill. It was like, let's give some more, we're going to give more money to the border agents. And we're also going to make it easier for everyone to come across
right?
and become automatic citizens. And then we're going to give this like couple $1 billion to Ukraine. And you're like,
So-
wait a minute, that's not what we talked about in the bill. What are you talking about?
There's no other benefit to our country. There's no other benefit to anyone. Now, those people, there's a benefit of them coming to this country, opportunity to earn more money, but there's no benefit to our country. The only benefit is to one party staying in power.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Okay. So, and having people not have IDs does make it easier, right?
Way
for people
easier.
who might want to vote.
Way easier.
So, yeah, if they're trying to encourage this whole thing to be, just come on down and vote.
Okay, we're going to hear President Trump's response, and then we're going to do super chats before we get on to the next topic.
Okay.
You have ID. The Democrat National Convention, when they had it the last time I saw, they had a sign like a billboard on the name of the person, where they live, how they live, who the hell their boyfriends are. Every single, it was, and a big picture. That's for they have an ID, a big ID. It was hanging like you were a prisoner. They had these massive cards, everything. And yet when it comes to the vote,
pronouns
in
we were
theory,
talking
the
about.
most important thing we do, okay? When you go to a grocery store, you give ID. But for a vote, it's supposed to be a sacred thing, and it should be a sacred thing. No voter ID because they want to cheat.
Well, it doesn't make sense in any other way. I've tried to look at
There's
it.
no other way.
There's no argument that anybody's presented that makes any sense why.
You know the funny thing, Joe? The Democrats, the people, they all think you should have it. In other words, you should have voting.
Yeah.
If you go to the people, Mrs. Schwartz, Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones,
Sure.
they say, of course, yeah. Democrats, they say yes. It's the politicians that don't want it. Like,
Yeah, and that's facts.
You know, one thing I learned from that whole conversation there is that Donald Trump hasn't been to a grocery store in a long time.
Right, yeah.
You used to go to, the only time you would show your ID at a grocery store is when you wrote a check.
When you wrote a check,
And
yeah.
that was from like the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or when you're buying cigarettes, which is not really a thing anymore. All right,
Yeah.
super chats.
We're
And
out.
by the way, guys, thank you guys. What we're going to do is when super chats come in order not to interrupt the segment, we're going to try to break it up by topic and read the super chats between topics. So I appreciate
So feel
it.
free to keep sending them in. We will get to them.
We will get to them. We will not leave until all super chats are addressed. I promise you that. John Burns for $2. He says, my friend who helps our ratings. And I don't know.
He was talking. Yeah, it was that was back when we were talking about The View.
Oh, The View.
And
Yeah.
and you know, he was helping ratings, and they loved him for it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they loved him for it. Yeah, our friend that helps the ratings, because he did. He was like ratings gold.
He was, yeah. Also, you're on fall member for 15 months. Oh, yeah, he already did that.
I got next one here. John
You got
Burns. He says, vote Thanksgiving Friday. Make that the holiday. Oh.
Well, no, that's Black Friday already, John. See, that would be a problem because
Yeah.
people would be like, no, I want to go shopping.
Let's make Cyber Monday the election day then. So you have a 4-day weekend.
A 4-day weekend, and then you get to go shopping still from home, but you can just stop and go by the polling
Yeah,
place.
Cyber Monday, you can literally shop from your phone while you're in line at the polling place.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that. Another one from John Burns Fields. Thank you, John. He goes, U.S. elections full of sound and fury. And from Joran Fault for 50 SEK. Dudes, Swedish media hate Trump. The Trump derangement syndrome is insane. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, what is Swedish media? You know, I know the Swedes are kind of lean left, and they have pretty interesting society up there. You know where you're at, so I can see why they wouldn't. It's like a
hybrid socialist capitalist system, right?
Yeah, and Sweden's lucky. You know, they've I think they have a couple of countries in between them and Russia, so maybe they're not so nervous.
Right. That's true.
We do have a couple of got a Chappie member for 4 months. Hail Popcast Bros and chat. Thank you, Chappie. And also you're on Falth gifted 5 Pop Culture Unleashed memberships. Thank you. So welcome all you new members. Come on over after this is over and we'll continue our chat afterwards.
Fantastic. Thank you, Euron. I appreciate that.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, so let's get into some of the really interesting stuff. Okay, here's a question. You want to talk about the Hitler-Kamala statements? Republicans are the new punk rock rebels? Or do you want to talk about aliens?
Well, let's get through the politics first, and then we'll go to the fun stuff.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Hitler and Kamala statements, because I thought this was a pretty good segment.
The rhetoric is also that you're Hitler, and that in order to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. She's a very low IQ. You know, I'm for taking tests, too. I think anybody that runs for president they should give them tests. And it's not an age thing. It's not based. If you look back on history, 70s and 80s, some of your greatest leaders in the world history, long-time world history, they were in their 70s and their 80s. But I think you should take cognitive tests. I think they say it's unconstitutional. But
that's ridiculous.
I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing. There's something wrong with it.
Well, I think it's pressure. I think the pressure and the scrutiny, you've been a celebrity for a long time and you understand what this is like. But for someone who's in her late 40s, who becomes the vice president, who runs for president, becomes the vice president, and then all of a sudden the weight of the world is on your shoulders and there's all these people paying attention. A lot of people clam up.
But you either have it or you don't.
Correct.
Look, this is an interview. We've covered a lot of territory, right? And you know, it's fine. I don't care. I want to. I think it's much more interesting. To do an interview with Anderson Cooper, a crazy softball interview. She took 2 days off and she studied all day long, and then she comes out with a result that was a real embarrassment. That was a really bad interview. She couldn't answer a question, and every question's not answered. I mean, like, what would you do your first day in office? Okay, I'll build a wall. I won't build a wall. There's 100 things you can say. Just say anything, right? There's something off with her.
I'm really wondering why. You know, here's the thing. Kamala Harris is obviously not stupid, but you know, I love that Trump is branding her because that's what you do to people. You brand them, and that hurts them. But obviously, to get to this point, she's not necessarily a stupid person. If she were to take a test, a cognitive test, she would pass it fine. The problem is, she can't answer any of the questions.
Right.
If she answers any of the questions, it will show that they're wrong.
And that's the real answer. She can't honestly answer the questions.
She can't answer them because if she does, now I think that the big mistake that she made in this whole election, she should have immediately divorced herself from Biden. This is what I would have done. I would have been like, yeah, I don't know, he made all the decisions, I wasn't really, I would have just thrown the kitchen sink at him. She can't do that because she's not elected. She's basically being placed there by people who don't want the Democratic Party to look bad.
Right.
But that's the only way this would have worked is if she said, look, she keeps saying, I'm different than Joe Biden, but she can't say I'll do different things because they don't want her to say that.
Right.
Okay. What she should be saying is, I'm not going to do anything like what he did.
Right.
Like, you see how bad our country is?
Are you kidding? He made me the border czar. I didn't even go down there for 2 years. That was a horrible decision, Joe.
He made me the border czar, then didn't let me do anything about it. Like, she should have thrown him completely under the bus. I mean, what's the point? The guy's never gonna, it's done. His legacy is cooked, right? Nobody's gonna remember this guy as a great president. You know how he's gonna be remembered? As the first president who couldn't remember the last time he that he peed his pants. Like, that's the way that he's going to be remembered. And it's sad.
It's sort of sad.
So she should have completely divorced herself. The Democratic Party should have just made a left turn, but they're staying in bed with him, and it's going to sink him, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think you're very right, actually. The thing about her policies, too, is that she doesn't want to have the same exact policies as Joe, but those policies are what the Democratic Party's policies are.
True.
So she took a long time to finally put up a website that has her 47-page policies, and if you actually look through them, they're just one-for-one versions of exactly what the policies have been from the Democratic Party for the last 8 years.
And I wish somebody would say, if you have the same policies as you had for the last 4 years, do you want the next 4 years to look like the last 4 years?
Right.
It's fair.
Right. It's fair. He is, he's a funny guy. That's probably why people like him. He's a very funny guy.
He's genuine.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's that. I mean, honestly, I don't think he's that funny. He's saying ridiculous things, and that makes it funny. But at the same time,
shocking to call someone low IQ.
Right. I mean, you're like, God, I can't believe you're saying that about somebody, because, the reality is, that's how he feels like he wins, is by calling people names. And I don't know, maybe it does to some degree.
Okay. One more clip here. Shane, I'm going to play this clip. They talk about how the Republicans are the new rebels. And after this clip, I want your real opinion on why that is. Why has the pendulum swung to where Republicans are right, or whatever, MAGA is the counterculture?
I have a great answer for you.
So let's play the clip, and then I want to hear your opinion here.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to buck the system. You're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech, and they're regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, I
got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win, but you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
great? By ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him, to them, if you win? The presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary
I
in
respected
jail.
that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country. First of all, I love
that Joe sees him starting to weave, and he cuts him off.
That's the way it has to be, because he's used to speaking for hours by himself.
Like second he starts to weave, he just goes right back to it. He just like laser focus, tries to snap him back to the point.
And that is a problem I do have with Trump. I do think
too much weaving.
I think he thinks it's a quality. It's good to some degree, but
the rebels are
sometimes it's better just to get an answer.
Right.
And the great answer we got there was, they're accusing me. They're saying I'm going to do what they're already doing to me.
Right.
And we're seeing this all over the place. Okay. It isn't just Trump, guys.
No, it's also
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard was put on the watch list.
Right.
The terrorist flying watch list
terrorist watch
by Joe Biden's Department of Justice. I mean, how does this woman end up on that fly list, bro? Okay, how did it's be other than political, vandalism?
She's a famous politician. But before we get into because that's going to lead to the next segment. Before we get into the
right
lawfare,
but also one other is not just Trump, but look at the lady who's now in Russia, who said Biden did stuff to her when she worked for him, right? And the Department of Justice, attacked her, and she ended up fleeing and like going to Russia for because she was going to go to jail. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on here, and it should concern every citizen.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're completely right, and we're going to talk about the lawfare stuff when we get to the Elon Musk portion of it. I want your answer, and I can't let you go on this because you said you had an answer. Why are Republicans, MAGA, whatever, why are they the new rebels? Why are they the new punk rock?
It's very simple. Okay, you can go back to Twitter. Okay, so when Elon Musk bought Twitter, before Elon Musk bought Twitter, and if you can remember, the silencing of conservative voices was huge, and it started happening all over the place. Like there was no free speech for one party. There was no
platform in which you can speak. Yeah.
And what happened was the media took that side as well. So once the media, the government, once they all aligned, once all of the big federal organizations aligned against a certain people, those people became the minority. They became the anti-culture. They became the punk rock, so to speak. And now we are the counterculture because we are fighting for our free speech, and the government is trying to silence us and control us.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, we're the guy in the Apple commercial with the hammer in the 80s that throws at the TV. Right.
Yeah. Or we're the, any generation that has, we're the hippies. we're the Mohawk people, depending on whatever the punk rock generation.
It's a wild thing too, because we weren't ever until all this stuff started to happen. I barely pay attention to politics. I wasn't interested. And I wouldn't even have called myself right wing or even Republican. In fact, if you asked me directly what I was, I would say, probably a Democrat. Probably, I'm socially progressive.
Yeah.
Financially, probably more conservative because I don't have any money. But I would have gone that way. In fact, I voted for Obama the first time because he seemed like a really cool dude. And that was my only reason. I had no other reason other than seems like a nice guy. I remember there was a debate where they asked him what is I forgot exactly what it was, but they asked him a direct question what's your greatest weakness or something, and he answered really quickly.
Yeah. And
then they went to just an honest answer. They went to the other politicians who did their weaving politician thing. And then he goes, "I'm sorry, can I answer that again?" And I remember laughing my butt off because he just seemed like a regular dude.
Yeah. I voted for him as well. So I voted for him in 2008 as well. And that was me coming back from Iraq.
Right.
So I had already been there. I was like, we shouldn't be here. Right. And what was Obama? He was saying, we need to get out of Iraq. Right. Yeah. So the reason I've supported Obama, because I agreed, we shouldn't have been there. We didn't need to be there. Right. And we needed to get out. And then he disappointed me after 8, and I didn't vote for him a second term, but he didn't get us out.
Yeah. That was another reason too. In fact, throughout history for me, since I was been an adult, I have always voted for anyone who was anti-war. War is bad. War is bad. Okay. And I've never been interested in war. And I'm like, I don't understand why we're in war, why we have to feed this giant machine, this war machine. So anyways, the reason I want to get to that point was because I was always considered myself, first off, non-political and probably more socially progressive. And then after 2016, the mask started to slip on all these liberals, a lot of the insanity, a lot of the Planned Parenthood, and just the real deep corruption that lies in our country. And the more knowledge that I gained, the farther right I went, until I considered myself a libertarian. I'm like, oh, I'm probably more of a libertarian. And then it just kept going farther and farther. I'm like, yeah, libertarians have some weird ideas too, you know, about like about people who shouldn't own stuff. I'm like, all right, so I'll stop right there. So I'm now getting, and I don't think I'm moving. I think the information that I'm getting is pushing me that way.
Well, you're finding out the truth.
It's pushing.
You're finding out the truth about where people really are on the left, or where people really are on the right. So, and I think that's moving. The left is moving further left. So you're standing still.
Right.
Like Bill Maher.
Right. Yeah. So on that note, let's talk about Elon Musk here, because they bring up Elon Musk. And if you've watched our show, then you know that Shay and I are huge Elon Musk simps.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Big time.
We love Elon Musk. And I know
all my money's in. All my chips are in on him.
Yeah. And listen, I know there's criticisms of Elon Musk and whatever. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't care. So far, Elon Musk has impressed me. He is a net positive for society. Whatever negative stuff happens, overall, I believe his positive effects is a net positive for society. And there isn't a whole lot of people you can say are a net positive for society. So
very true.
I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and they talk about him. So let's listen to the clip.
You can do that. Elon did that. By the way, Elon is great. That guy is such a great guy. I think you're a fan of Elon. Him. He is from a different planet. He's the greatest guy. That rocket coming in.
Yeah.
I told the story once or twice, so you may have heard it, because these speeches have been good. Did you see the one last night?
Yeah.
29,000 people. That was
Yeah.
And the one the night before was the same thing. We are rocking and rolling. But Elon, and I'm talking to this very important guy. I said, wait a minute, I'm looking at something. The television's unmuted, right? And I see this rocket. It's all brown from the heat. You know, it's like 10,000 degrees pouring down at thousands of miles an hour. And I see this thing, you know, it's like a 20-story building.
And it catches
And
it.
I say to this guy, who's an important guy, wait a minute, let me just put you down. Hold it. I got to see this. And I see this, and it's going to crash. I say, it's going to crash into the gantry. They call it a gantry. I said, oh, man, that's going to be a disaster, because it's starting to get very close. And then all of a sudden you see the flames in the bottom, and it boom, and then you see the two arms grab it.
Crazy.
And I forgot the guy. I had him on the phone. I said, the hell with him. No, I called Elon. I said, was that you? He said, that was me. And I said, who else can do that? He said, nobody. Russia can't do it. The United States. Nobody can do it. You know, I set up Space Force. That was me. And that's
all right, he's going to go into the Space Force weave.
I really, that's the thing I dislike the most about Trump, the politician. Actually, even when he's doing anything, he likes to talk about things that he's done, that he's been successful at. The problem is, we've heard it over and over and over and over again. It gets to the point where it's like you're talking with somebody who's like, dude, you've already told me that story like 4 times. So once, twice, yeah, I get it, you know.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of some of my like my dad and his older friends, our dad and his older friends. How they really do want to toot their own horn a lot when it comes to like things they've accomplished. And like, as someone who knows them, like we know Trump now, like because we've heard him speak so many times. It's never really a news story. Like we're like, okay, we get it, bro. We get a Space Force. We get it, dude. Okay, moving on. You know,
that's not really done anything for us yet. I'm not even sure you should really, you know,
I'm not
jump
even
on
sure
that
that's a huge thing. Like I think it's an old person thing. I think it's what it is, bro. Because our dad would do the same thing. It's tarantulas. Like, Dad, we know.
It's hard.
We know, Dad. We know.
Okay, got it.
All right. So speaking of mistakes, there's a clip here about.
Do you want to say anything about it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got completely distracted. The Elon Musk thing is really important. I like that President Trump recognized the significance of that rocket launch. I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think people.
I did.
I know we did, but I don't think a lot of people online recognize how important, how difficult that was, and how huge of a milestone that is to getting off this rock.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Reusing booster rockets. Huge.
Yeah, and you're saving billions and billions and billions of dollars with this. And yeah, China can't do it. USA can't do it. NASA
That's
can't
the reason we're going to be able to go to Mars.
Yeah,
that's it. Moon and Mars. That's going to be it.
I mean, Mars is like the long game, right? But let's say just like being able to get resources from outer space. It is not reasonable to spend $20 billion to send a rocket into space to bring back a few $1 million worth of lithium.
Sure.
Right? But when you get that cost down, now you can experiment more just looking. Like, it's not even worth it to go looking for resources on these asteroids and the moon, et cetera, but when the cost is so high. And like SpaceX, dude, like, I don't know how this company is in business when they don't actually make any money. You know?
Well, that's not their goal right now.
Right.
Their goal is to just, they don't need to make money. They just need to pay for what they're doing.
And that is the
they get
significance
grants from
of
the
what
government.
Right.
Right.
That's the significance of what Elon Musk is able to do.
Well, and when you put on top of that Starlink, when you put on top of that Twitter, I mean, listen, if Elon Musk doesn't buy Twitter, Brian, I don't know if our First Amendment rights even occur. Is there even a place for people to have free speech?
I know, dude. Dude, the buying Twitter, and you see the people who criticize him, like, he bought Twitter and ran into the ground. Are you still using it? Yes. Then shut up. Number one, he bought Tesla, and look what they're doing. The only reason we're making electric cars is because Tesla. Yes, we had electric cars, but it wasn't popularized. Someone in the chat says, do we throw planes away after one use? No. Cars? No. He mainstreams things. Electric cars, freedom of speech, right?
Neuralink,
Starlink. Let me tell you something. As someone who used to utilize satellite internet, it used to be like 3 megs down, 1 meg up. It was slow as hell. It was hard to find the satellite. You had, on a cloudy day, good effing luck. Yeah. This guy has mainstreamed and normalized something that should have happened in the 90s when we were putting satellites in space. It should have been satellite internet should have been a normal thing. He did it. And yeah, and there's people behind him, engineers that he paid, people he hired from NASA and other huge organizations. Sure. But just because they have the knowledge to do it, he put it together. He put those teams together and normalized something that should have been normalized 20 years ago.
Well, and that's why this is so important to let's bring this back to Rogan and Trump. Okay.
Right.
Let's bring back Elon. The reason Elon's supporting Trump because
I
of free
weaved
speech.
a little too hard. I apologize.
You got off loop. That's okay. Because what you said is important. He is doing these things that other people could do, but they don't do. And you want to know why they don't do it? Because of resources. They're not very efficient.
Right.
Okay. And so what he's going to do if he comes in, and I don't know how much this is going to impact it, but if he allows Elon Musk to take a look at how the government does things and actually allows Elon Musk to help, make us more efficient, I mean, that's just going to help our country. We're going to save a bunch of money. We're going to cut some fat. And a lot of people are scared to hear that. There's a lot of government employees out there who do not want to hear about making the government smaller. But frankly speaking, for the benefit of our government, it has to happen. And so I think having somebody like Elon say, okay, well, Elon, take a look at this wing of the government. Where are we spending? Why are we doing too much? Give us your opinion. He's not saying Elon's going to come in and just do whatever he wants. He's going to give his advice, give his opinion. And then politicians and people elected will have to make decisions on cost cutting. But that's if Elon Musk is willing to do that, we have to take our modern day Tesla, right, and one of the smartest human beings on earth, and allow him to help us. And he's willing to do that. So
yeah, it's crazy how you have someone who is so hyper successful at doing things that we all feel should have been a thing 2 decades ago. He is so successful, and there are people who are like, no, just keep him out of the government. He's not that smart. People who don't have 2 nickels to rub together and can't even break 100 followers on Twitter are the ones complaining about the person who bought Twitter. It's just so unbelievable with me, which leads me to, bringing him into the White House as a consultant on these efficiency programs. Great. I mean, the dude cut 80% of the staff at Twitter when he bought it.
Yep.
Anyone notice problems with Twitter? Oh, nope. No. Oh, it's running better. It's running better than it was before. There's more options. You got Grok, you got bookmarks, you got all these new things. You can finally edit a tweet. Guys, I've been using Twitter since it came out, and you couldn't edit a tweet ever. The guy cut 80% of the staff and added functionality to the platform. Like, come on.
Yeah, and that's what happens. And listen, he's made Tesla successful. He's making everything he touches turns to gold. PayPal, go back to the beginning. So anyways, we can go on and on about Elon Musk.
So on that note, though, partnering with the right people, and that leads me to this beautiful segue of him teaming up with RFK. And regardless of what you think about RFK,
Junior, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, RFK Jr. I really want to talk about vaccines. Listen, there's a lot of good things with RFK. A lot of people can't get past his voice or some of his like history, but he knows a lot about the pharma side of the business, and that is a huge, almost unregulated part of our country that is just, it hurts people by the billions and makes billions at the same time. So let's look at this, because him teaming up with RFK is a really good thing. And I think one of the reasons why he's on the Joe Rogan show was because his relationship with RFK.
First of all, I love this idea of you teaming up with Robert Kennedy.
Right.
And I love this Make America Healthy Again idea, because there are chemicals and ingredients in our food that are illegal in other countries because they've been shown to be toxic. There's pesticides and herbicides, and there's a lot of shit that's been sprayed on our food that really is unnecessary. And there's a lot of health consequences that people are suffering from a lot of these things. And
I brought this chart for you.
Beautiful.
Because I had a feeling you'd be asking me.
Thank you.
Look at this chart. These are healthier countries. Look where the United States is. I'm
He
going
brought
to send
charts.
this to RFK Jr. Look
So
at that.
this is, something
brought
along the, I was actually talking to RFK today, and he told me that more than 70% of young men are ineligible for the military because of their health.
I could see it.
That's
a lot
crazy.
A lot of it's obesity.
So here's the life expectancy versus health expenditure.
Same chart.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
USA.
Wow,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Jamie's the best.
He's very good.
He's the best.
But but look at that. Look where
at
the
the
USA is.
It's not good. And
they
that's our
spend all that
food.
money.
That's our diet. That's sedentary lifestyle. That's our diet. That's the chemicals we ingest. That's what that is.
But RFK is going to be very, I think he's a great guy.
I
think
love
he's
the
great.
fact that you guys teamed up.
Yeah.
And are you guys
combination.
completely committed to have him a part of your administration?
Oh, I am. But the only thing I want to be a little careful about with him is the environmental. Because, he doesn't like oil. I love oil and gas. I think,
Just
it's
keep him out of that.
to fire. So I'm going to say keep him out of it. I said,
That's a good
focus
point.
on health. Focus.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. But I got to be a little bit careful with the liquid gold,
I understand. But listen, there's plenty of
Just keep him out of that. I love
good
that.
work that could be done if you focus on health.
Here's
So-
the one that my all-time favorite, though.
what is
Look,
that?
See the arrow right here? That's one I left.
Do
The
you
day I
have
left.
anyone that is pressuring you to not work with him? Have there been
This is the
People
question.
work with who?
Listen to this.
RFK Jr.? Has
Yes.
there- yes, I would imagine. Because
I would
financially,
say,
he could put a dent.
I would say that, and I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the big pharma wasn't thrilled when they heard that, I have a relation. I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him
Here
a
comes
long
the
time.
wave.
He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy. And he's very sincere about this. I mean, he really is, he thinks we spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with that chart is a terrible chart, the one previous. It's such a bad chart when you look at where we are compared to other countries that don't spend 10 cents.
Right.
So, and you save a lot of money. But, yeah, I've had some people that
There
aren't
we go.
exactly
We're
thrilled.
back to home. Back to home.
You can imagine, right?
Sure.
It's a good question, actually.
Well, certainly if there have
it doesn't
been-
affect me. The Russia hoax was a
First of all, I love this idea
So,
of you teaming up with
That doesn't affect me. That was the best ending you can have. Well, but it doesn't affect me. Which means he's not going to listen to people that are complaining about his crackdown on big pharma just because he's friendly with.
First
big
of all,
pharma.
I love
You got to take that. You got to take that and look at it really closely. Now, the fact that he said that goes with everything with Trump, and that's what scares people the most. He is going to make his own decisions. He's not going to listen to what other people. He might listen to it, and if you're compelling, he'll make a decision. But ultimately, he's going to decide what he wants to, and people are afraid to let their politicians do that. But I think this is a really important segment because I love that RFK. No matter where you stand on the vaccines, listen, drugs and vaccines are net positive for our society. Drugs have helped people live longer. They've solved problems. There are good drugs out there. There are good vaccines out there. The problem is, in a free market society, the bad stuff gets through.
Right.
Because because you don't always have somebody watching closely enough, and people can get paid off and people are greedy. So the most important thing that we can have is transparency. So we want freedom, right? We want people to have the right to create products and do things that, and make drugs and vaccines and things, but we need transparency and we need studies and we need to make sure people are aware of what's happening so that they can make choices. If somebody tells you, look, there's a 90% chance this vaccine is going to protect you for this, you get to make the decision on whether or not you take the vaccine. Right. That's what needs to happen. And same thing with food, right? Listen, we've been lied to our whole lives.
Our entire lives.
Sugar is a drug.
Yeah.
Sugar is really bad for us.
It's poisonous, dude.
It's poison. Okay. Just like everything is in large quantities, right? In small doses, no big deal. Sugar is a poison.
Right.
And we are taking in so much sugar that it's destroying us. And that's what you see happening with America right there. I know there's a lot of pesticides and there's other things that are a problem as well, but the number one problem is sugar. And, we do need to look into this. We need to let people know, look, we need some transparency around this kind of thing. We may need to put some guardrails on. I mean, my parents didn't know that they were poisoning me, and now it's getting harder and harder to find food that's not got all this poison in it. Right.
Yeah. And you're completely right.
So let RFK in there to help us.
Yeah. Just keep him out of the oil.
I mean, he's not going to do everything. Obviously, he wants to make America healthy again.
I thought that was funny. If his entire focus is the health of the country, I gotta be honest. Like, we need to be able to look at. I know we have the FDA and all that stuff,
but they're not doing their job.
But they're not doing their job all the time.
They're getting money under the table for things, and they're looking the other way.
It's so corrupt, and
it's corrupt.
On top of the food and drugs, you have the other side of that, the drugs. Look, the whole vaccine mandate and hyper push for, vaccinations that aren't tested properly. The fact that they create drugs that solve a symptom of a disease instead of actually solve the disease when they know they can, because they want to keep selling them at insanely high bloated prices that they charge to your insurance agency, that the majority of the people that aren't using it are actually paying for. It's all a giant rigged system. Someone needs to deal with it. Someone needs to regulate insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, to stop literally fleecing the American people every single day. I'm sorry. Well, they did put a cap on diabetes and all that medication. That was great. But there's a lot of medications that people require to live that are thousands of dollars.
Well, and you don't have to put regulations in place necessarily. What you need to do is you need to have the free market. So you need competition. Right. Competition solves all problems. When you have a better product made by somebody else, then you're going to choose that one over the other one. If you have a safer, healthier, cheaper product, you're going to choose that one. The problem in our country right now is we have too many monopolies. We have too many people who can't compete, because the moment you start trying to compete, you get bought out, you get shut down, you get red taped. You can't afford to, start up. So we need to make sure that companies can compete.
Right.
And we need small startups to be able to compete against these big giants. That's just, and that's what's gone wrong with our country.
Specifically patents and trademarks for medication, like those last way too long. And
of course, they're trying to protect themselves.
It's crazy how they go. Like we're going to have the lock on this medication for the next few decades. And then we're going to slightly tweak it, discontinue, and have another few decades for the same medication. It's such a weird, twisted system. It shouldn't take 40 years for there to be a generic version of Tylenol, or whatever. What I mean? Like, it shouldn't.
Well, and if one company says, well, look, they're charging $50 a bottle for it. We're going to charge 45, you know, and then all of a sudden they're like, crap, they're not buying as much of our stuff. What's our profit margin here? Well, it only costs us $20. Let's do it for 40. The other ones, let's do it for 35.
Right.
Let's do it for 30. And all of a sudden now the price comes down because you have competition.
Right.
Okay. And maybe they're not making as much of a biggest margin, but let me ask you a question. Do companies need to make billions of dollars?
No.
You know, do they need to?
I have no problem with a company making $billions.
I have no problem if they do,
but they don't need to make 8,000%. Okay.
Right. They don't need to fleece the people making it. Right,
because
exactly.
some of this diabetes medication was found out that it costs less than $1.50 and they were charging $500 a dose.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you charge what you listen. For companies, look, you charge what you can for something.
Sure.
But expect the company next to you to compete with you.
Yeah.
To lower those prices.
100%.
If there is no company, AKA electric companies, waste management, you know, all of these different services that we have, if there's no competition, they're going to charge whatever they want. So that's, I think, the secret and the key to this. And I think Trump is the kind of guy who's going to deregulate, but we also have to be careful about monopolies. So it's a very difficult road.
So speaking of RFK, let's talk about JFK. That was a bad segue. But
not really.
We're going to get into the Trump JFK files here because I thought this was interesting. And I really want to hear your take on this, Shane, because I don't believe that he answered with all the data. And after you hear this, I want to hear what you think, what you have to say about it.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So
is that the face where he's like,
what can I say here? Right. Yeah.
What can I say about this?
Well, this is him realizing there's top secret things that you can't say.
Right. Because isn't it treason to disclose top secret information?
Yeah, it's illegal.
Yeah. So that would totally negate his ability to run for president if he was arrested for treason after the Joe Rogan show.
I mean,
right?
treason's a pretty harsh word, but like if you divulge top secret information, it's not always treason, but it is definitely unlawful. You know, so depending on your purpose for releasing the information,
right.
Like if he were to release this information right now, it would be really bad for him.
Right.
Because it would show people that he's unable to protect the secrets he should be protecting. Who's he protecting? Well, he says if he gets elected, he's going to release it, period. It's
right.
time.
Yeah, he's going to say it right here.
Right.
Yeah. Here we go.
I opened them up partially. I was met with, from good people. I mean, good people that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, "Sir, would rather have you not." And I did open them, but I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther.
Yeah. So he says it's a Martin Luther King file. So, and I'm just going to be clear. He said that there were people that were good people that said don't open them. I think there's a lot of people though that were like, you cannot open this entire thing. And he goes on to say, because there are people that are living right now that are still connected to it. But if there's nothing to hide, and this is my question to you, Shane, if there's nothing to hide, then how would those living people be affected by it?
Well, that's the problem. So there's obviously some sort of embarrassment, some of the things that were done, decisions that were made. And there are probably CIA agents that are still alive back at that time, who were serving at that time, who were involved in the situation, and it would put them, paint them in a negative light. Let's see, let's say George Bush Sr. Was involved. Like a lot of people like to think that he's perhaps involved. He was at the CIA at the time.
Yeah, he was wasn't he the head of it?
He was at one time, but not during the assassination. Right. So what embarrassment would it be against the Bush family if it came out that he was somehow directly involved in this.
That George W. Bush was the guy on the grassy knoll.
No. I mean, he was too young. He was
right.
But the point is like,
imagine that.
Like he's a Republican. Look at the people who he said he respected. People asked me not to do it. Right. Obviously, look, Mike Pompeo, a lot of these people, Republicans, rhinos, right. They don't want Bush to be embarrassed. They don't want that family. And there's probably more people involved than that. But like he said, it's time. So if he gets back in, and look, Bush Jr. has done him no favors. W has done him no favors.
Right. And he says time to reset.
Why does he care about? Yeah, it's time to get it out in the open. And listen, most of us are already aware, right? Most of us are already aware shit didn't go down like they're saying it went down. The Warren Commission's hiding stuff. Shit didn't go down like that. We, as our government, was somehow involved in some way. We need to find out how. Transparency.
Yeah. So this is the end of his statement.
Security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about, but some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, "Would it be possible for us to do that a different day?"
How much of it did you read into?
This is the
I don't think he read a lot into it. I think this look is I really just got the highlights and I didn't look at the whole damn thing because I ain't got time to read, all those documents.
Yeah, he does say that it would shock people though. Right? Here's what he says.
I mean,
I think it's going to be just fine to open it.
We murdered our president.
I think it's going to be time.
Might be a problem.
Yeah, it might be a problem if we found out we murdered a president because of war. Because of war. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell into the mic. I apologize, guys.
Because of the Vietnam War, yes.
Right.
Well, and some other things, but yeah.
Right.
It's a cleansing.
The mafia.
It's really a cleansing.
He calls it a cleansing.
So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
So he's going to immediately open up the RFK files when he enters office. So another reason we hope that he jumps in there because
get behind glass, Dawn. Get behind glass, man. Yeah. You got to let 10 days, bro.
The deep state is going to come after you. Yeah, I mean, like imagine though the story. I can't wait to talk about that story in 3 weeks or whatever,
Right. Well, it wouldn't be till January because he's got to take office.
Right. Okay. Let's go do some super chats, and then we're gonna do one more segment before we go to the member section. I just realized how late I was getting. So first off, from John Burns for $2, Duck Walmart. I think you meant to say FUCK Walmart.
No, thank you, John. Yes.
Yeah. Thanksgiving Friday. He wants the election day to be on Thanksgiving Friday. John Burns also says Trump was a celebrity slumlord in the 80s.
Yes. To some degree he was. I think most landlords were slumlords in New York at that time.
Yeah, but a lot of people also talk about how his first foreman was like an African-American woman.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, his father was more the slumlord than he was. His father had a lot of properties with a lot of low-income people living in them.
Right. John Burns for $2 says, does Kamala equal Modella? What?
Mondale. So Walter Mondale got his ass kicked by Reagan in 1984. And so what happened was Mondale, this is interesting. So Mondale, like Kamala Harris, didn't show up to this dinner where Trump roasted her. And Mondale ended up losing every state except Minnesota in a landslide victory. I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to get the Mondale treatment. I don't think this is going to be that big of a landslide. Mondale got just hammered in 84. And I think that she's going to, if I were guessing right now, and if everything goes fine and there's no massive cheating and we get this thing done, it feels to me like Trump's going to win. And it feels like Kamala's probably going to just barely lose, probably.
That line from that dinner when he go.
But one more thing real quick before you tell the line.
Go ahead.
The reason why it's Kamala and Mondale can't be the same is because the media was more honest back in 84 and they tended to follow the facts. Reagan got good press. you know, and now Trump gets none. So Kamala can't get the Mondale treatment. So,
That's true.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that moment in the dinner though. First off, I like to see him like just hanging out with obvious like liberal people that had criticized him in the past. Like he's patting him on the back, having dinner.
Oh, with Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer and the host. I always forget his name, but he's a pretty hefty celebrity liberal. But that line that even had Chuck Schumer laughing, by the way, when he goes, I see some white guys for Harris out here. Yeah, oh, yep. It's okay. I know you're not voting for me. Don't worry. Your wives and their lovers are voting for me.
Oh, the ones supporting Harris? Yeah, that was a great line. That was the cuckold. The cuckold. Whoever wrote that for him, Trump had no idea. What's the best part about that is, you know, Trump didn't write that.
Right.
Somebody wrote it for him. And he's so knowing somebody who doesn't realize what he's reading. I don't think he realized
that delivery was perfection.
It was great. Yeah. It was good. And I do love Jim Gaffigan. Basically Jim Gaffigan, who was the kind of the comedy MC, I guess, so to speak. He basically calls out Harris by saying, you know, you're running for election and you're not here. You know, and he really hammered her on that. And I think that's how she is definitely related to Mondale.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she has the ability to deliver the way Trump would deliver. And I mean, it would have been been worse for her to show up.
Well, you saw the video, right? So she did an SNL skit basically with I can't remember her name. She was back in the 90s. She was really popular. The Catholic schoolgirl.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
from
you know, they
TV
did
or
this
something.
No, it was from SNL.
Oh, SNL, that's right.
And it was really embarrassing. It was, you know, kind of a weird thing. Harris didn't really do anything. It was all Molly Shannon is her name. And it was weird. It didn't turn out well. So she didn't show. You know why she didn't show up to that dinner? She doesn't have that. She doesn't have the ability to roast.
Right.
And I think she gets really I don't think she can take.
Right.
You know, I don't think she can take it, honestly.
Right. John Burns for $10. Thank you, John. He says from
DYHPPYX. That's one of the. Oh, okay. And thanks, John. I think he super chatted for somebody else.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, John. He says, let's say Democrats are actually letting in immigrants to vote 20 years from now. This is beyond fair play because the current electoral college overweights the tiny Republican states.
Yes. Really great point. Thank you for the $10, John. Thank you for the Thank you for making that point. It does. It'll completely, and they know it, guys. The Democratic Party, it's part of their playbook. You know, how long have Democrats been trying to let people into this country? Because they know they need the poor vote. The more, the richer our country becomes, the less you need the Democratic side to bail you out, right? You know, and so it only makes sense. They have to continue increasing their numbers of poor people. That's why, you know, African-American people in these communities are tired of being poor all the time because Democrats say they're going to help them and never do. Well, shit, if they help them, then they won't vote Democrat anymore.
Right.
So
if they get them out of the system, they need them to be attached to these invisible financial chains. Like this is very important.
Right.
I didn't understand this when I was younger, and I don't think a lot of young people understand this. Look, EBT, SNAP, welfare, these are all good things, but they are being ran poorly. They're not being ran to actually help the people. They're being ran in order to keep them enslaved.
Keep them in poverty.
The whole point is, and I'm telling you, as someone who has been on that side, I've needed that assistance. Once you don't need that assistance, because no one goes, well, I'm poor and homeless, and now I have a job, a house, a car, and everything's fine. No, there's a transitional, it takes time to get your life in order. So these people have 4 kids, 3 kids, 2 kids, whatever. They're poor. They're out of work. They need welfare. They need unemployment. They need SNAP or EBT. And they apply for it. And let's say they get $800 a month in EBT so they can feed their family and buy groceries and whatever, right? Well, the second they get a job, guess what happens to the EBT?
Gone.
Instantly. You have to report your job. And if you don't report your job and you hang on to EBT until you get everything set up, guess what? You got to pay that back with interest. They remove what limited amount of money that they're giving you after you apply for it, the moment you have any kind of self-sustaining anything. And it's nuts. It needs to be on some kind of scale. Like, okay, we're going to slowly pay this down over time. We're going to get you. No one should be. The point of the system should get you out of the system, not to keep you in the system.
Right. Well, and I think initially it was probably, I don't think it was set up in order to create a system with which to keep people in it initially. It was created to help people. But the problem is humanity is funny. If you're going to give somebody $1,000 for them not to do anything, why would they make $1,000 working really hard when they can just get $1,000 to do nothing?
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the way human beings are. So
especially when they know they're going to lose all of assistance the second they actually try to work.
Right. And one political party figured it out over time. Well, look, these are the people voting for us, and they didn't want to fix the system.
Right.
So, and it's a difficult system to fix, but you're right.
Yeah. John Burns, Colin Quinn. He's super chatting for other people. Thank you, John Burns. That's
or that's Colin Quinn, the actor.
Oh, maybe. He said one party system, worst political system. USA, two-party system. Colin, one more party than the worst political system. USA. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't like the fact that we have effectively two parties. And I think and I'll be honest, I'll be straight up. I think it's a joke that we go, we're having the independent libertarian debates, because I don't care what people feel about them. In the current system, it's a complete waste of time. Until we abolish the two-party system or somehow incentivize independent libertarian whatever, we're never going to have more than two parties. So we can keep banging our head against the table trying to convince the two-party system to let us in when they're not. Because it's not in their interest. Republican or Democrat, it's not in their interest.
Why would you want someone to vote for three people when they're voting for two?
Right.
Although it's funny, let me give the Colin Quinn quote here. I found it. Thank you, John, for the $5. Colin Quinn said, there's 350 million people and there's two parties. There's 15 genders and there's two parties. There's 4 bathrooms and there's two parties. So what he's saying is, we got all this other stuff, but there's only two parties. And the reason there's two parties is because money, money in politics, 100%. Which needs to end. Honestly.
Money talks, bullcrap walks. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the term limits that we talked about before. The people that would vote for term limits on the Senate is the people you're asking to vote against themselves. It doesn't make any sense.
Why would you vote for someone to fire themselves?
It's crazy.
You wouldn't. And unfortunately, that's the way. No one realized that it would be a problem. I don't think any of our 4 founding fathers thought, wait, somebody wants to do this political thing their whole lives? None of them wanted to. They were farmers.
Right.
They didn't want to do this thing their whole life. So they didn't realize they would have people who would never leave.
Right.
Yeah. And never do anything.
They didn't expect people to make an entire career. There's an industry around politicians.
Right.
That was not their intention.
It was a sacrifice you made for the better good.
Joe Rogan talks about the Constitution. I don't know. By the way, I don't really agree. I always agree with Joe Rogan. But there's a rant he goes on about the Constitution. He goes, Constitution is it's hundreds of years old, and we're expecting this document to be living when they didn't even know cars existed. And while I don't agree with all of his points, I do agree that there are some things in the Constitution that, and while I love it, it's the greatest document written, it is definitely needs to be updated, amended, added to.
Well, that's what they do over time. They do.
Right.
They have added amendments. They have done things. No,
but not
true.
Involving their own position.
Well, right. And so unfortunately, when people make changes to a document, it's usually to benefit themselves.
Right.
Let me tell you something. The president should not have as much power as the president does today.
No.
That was all changed a long time ago by Thomas Jefferson,
Right.
who started making executive orders. Well, hey, that's not how it used to work. The president was a guy who was just supposed to like talk to other foreign governments. Like he was like the mouthpiece for the states. He was representing the states. He didn't have any money. There were no taxes. The president was a figurehead.
Right.
There was no power there. But over time, that's what's happened. And now to the point of, we're depending on the president to shut down the border because all of our elected officials can't freaking agree on something to make sure that we're not being inundated by people who are dragging our country down. We literally have to have Trump come in, sign an executive order to shut the border, which technically is against everything in our Constitution.
Right. It's batshit crazy.
But we don't have a choice because it's the only way to protect our country now.
Right.
So you're right. Things need to change. But the framework was put in there. We've just changed in the wrong ways.
Right. From Johan Falth for 100 SEK, he says, at the end of the day, people are stupid sheep, angry NPC noises.
Thank you, Huron.
Truth and knowledge doesn't matter. He who controls the narrative controls the people. What is that line from Men in Black? He goes,
which
no, a person is good, but people are dumb, stupid animals. I'm paraphrasing, but.
Well, most people don't have, listen, most people are just trying to survive. You got people on a couple of different levels, right? So you have people who are thriving, right? Everything's good. They got enough money. They got enough food. They got enough shelter. Everything's great. They're thriving, right? They have the time to think about politics and, what could I do with my neighbor's house? Or maybe I should work in the garden today. Then you have people who are just trying to fucking survive. Right? You have people
just trying to get through it, dude.
How am I going to pay the electric bill? How am I going to? And those people don't have time to pontificate on this stuff. And those people are misinformed and tend to believe what their neighbor says, what their spouse says, what they heard on ABC. This is what happens and why people end up, oh, whoa, Trump grabbed somebody's P word. Oh God, can't vote for that guy. So that's all they hear.
They literally don't have the time to be informed, which is so unfortunate.
And the trick of the Democratic Party right now, this happened with Biden when he was elected and Harris, is just don't give any information. Right. Hide them, protect them. Don't give people anything to talk about. And it's been podcasts and alternative media that's had to shed the light on what's going on with Kamala Harris. That's the only way we would know that she can't answer any of these questions is because of the internet. I mean, and that it's free still. So, yeah.
You're on another 50 SEK. Thank you, Yoran. He says, socialists in a nutshell, they can't win fair and square, so they import poor people to get votes. There it is.
That's what it is, man. Truth be told. And also, Archmage Frey, member for 12 months. Editing tweets is dangerous. Someone could change everything Brian has ever liked to say, like, I love Thailand. That was a great one, Archmage.
Also, a member, Suki D Nuts. You got me. You got me, bro.
These names, guys.
Sucky D Nuts. You got me. Thank you. You know who that is, right? That's that one guy.
That beach.
Yeah, it's that guy. He says he will end. I can't put on the screen because it's a membership, but he says he will end federal income tax. The government will run in tariffs and flat tax. That is awesome. Yeah, if he can.
I don't know. Listen, I don't know if he can pull that off. If you listen to him answering the question, he's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And that's not like that's like a. I don't know if that's committed to running in income tax ending. It would be great if he could end income tax and just use tariffs or a flat tax. I'm all for a 10% flat tax or something like that, where we all pay the same amount, regardless of how much, if you pay $1 billion, pay 10% of your billion.
Right.
I'm down for that. And I don't know. The reason that they won't do that is because I think it would impact how politicians get elected. I think it would not give them something to fight over, but I do think that that's a solution. I think a lot of libertarians would tell you no tax is the way to go. So maybe that's a way to get libertarian votes.
I agree. Also, Euron also gifted another pop culture.
Ooh, Euron, you are killing it today, bro. Thank you for all the super chats.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Speaking of the membership, we're gonna start the alien clip, right? But then we're gonna finish that clip in the members section. So we're gonna start it right now. But if you want to become a member and you didn't get one of these awesome coveted Unleashed memberships from Euron, then hit the join button bottom left, become a member, and see what it's like on the inside. Where we are truly unleashed.
Yeah, and here's the thing: that we're going to be, engaging with you directly as members. So it's the things you want to talk about, and so that's another good reason to come in, so you can converse with us.
And we're gonna be going there in a few minutes, but we're gonna like I said, we're gonna start the alien story and we'll finish it in there because I think that one's gonna get a little crazy. And we don't want to get our channel removed for crazy.
Yeah, and listen, we hope you guys enjoyed today's. It's a little different type of show for us. Let us know what you think. How did you like doing it on a Saturday?
Yeah.
And were you okay with all the politics?
Yeah, especially if you're watching on archive. Like, let us know what you guys think about this. So one last topic. Oh, one more thing before we get last topic. Sosa says, Shane, big fan of your OnlyFans content.
Yeah, you would have to be a big fan, Sosa, because I only accept big people as my OnlyFans members. You got to be a big guy in order to watch my OnlyFans.
Yes,
Thanks,
that's
Sosa.
true. Okay, all right. Let's talk about aliens, dude.
All right.
Trump on Rogan talking about aliens. This is gonna be fun. Here we go.
One of the things that
there's a lot of interest in the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested.
Oh,
in
very
that
interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd they tell you?
A lot.
How much can you tell?
So
how's that work? Is it like super
I
top
think
secret?
Wait.
Oh, how much did they tell you?
I love how Rogan is like he's like I'm super interested. How much did they tell you about that? How much did they tell? What are you allowed to say? Just firing questions at him.
Right? He's like, come on, tell me what's going
on. Watch this again. Watch Rogan's response when Trump brings up aliens.
There's a lot of interest in the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested.
Oh, very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd they tell you? How much can you tell?
So
how's that work? Is it like super top secret?
How much you let tell? How's that work? Is it super top secret? He just he just asked 4 questions in a matter of 10 seconds.
Look at his face. This is like the thing everybody wants to know. Like, this is what we think the government's hiding from us. So come on. That's great.
Oh man. All right, here we go.
Well,
tell me.
Well, based on Hunter Biden, I can say whatever the hell I want, right? But I interviewed a few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer. I have people that Area 51 or whatever it is. I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in the whole country or something. Area 51 in Las Vegas.
Not good,
You know
Trump.
that, right?
Sure.
Wait, pause it.
So
Pause it. Listen, Mr. President, you should fucking know what Area 51 is, bro. Okay, I'm sorry. You should know exactly what that place is. Go ahead.
I think it's the biggest tourist attraction.
The hell, Don?
anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I interviewed jet pilots that say they saw something. If you saw them, you'd love to have them as
I've had a couple in here. Commander David Fravor.
Yeah.
I had him in, who had that sighting in 2004. Very, very compelling with visual.
Tell me, pause it. Tell me you haven't watched Rogan without telling me you haven't watched Rogan.
Right. This reminds me of like 2 guys that are really high, and one is like really chill and like, yeah, man, I'm talking to, he's the Air Force. And one guy's like, what's up? He gets really intense and paranoid.
This is something he's wanted to know for a long time. He's always like, yeah, I want to know what's going on. We all want to know.
And, that said, and I hate to do this to you guys, but we're going to finish this in the members section because it's officially 2:30.
And yeah, we're going to talk about your guys' stuff, whatever you guys want to talk about.
So we'll finish this in the members section, and then we'll go over your chats, and we'll just have a cool conversation. If you would like to become a member, again, hit the join button, bottom left. I'm not trying to bait and switch, but it's 2:30, and we have families, so we have to go to the members section now.
Well, yeah, we're 30 minutes over our normal time anyway,
So come on over, guys. Hit that join button, come to the members section, and enjoy it. I think that I think we're gonna love that. This is gonna spark some cool conversation. Can't wait to see you over there. Shane, got anything to say before we go over there?
Listen, we love you guys. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us on a Saturday. Typically, we're doing this on Thursdays, but we're trying to find our way.
Yep.
Please subscribe, like, and come back and see us next week. We love you guys so much.
And
thanks for all the support.
Hit the comments. If you're like, listen, I'd rather you guys do it on Saturdays instead of Thursdays, let us know. We're still trying to figure out when to do the show that makes sense for Shane and I, and it's best for people that want to watch it. So we don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, let's go. We'll see you in the member section. We love you so much. If you don't come over, then we'll see you next week. Wrong button. Damn it.
Nothing is impossible. Just do it. Do it. Just do it. Yes, you can. Just do it.